Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. We lead off with that. We all have a birthday. It's nice that we all relate to something at the beginning of the video, because later on, we might disagree. Today's topic, new cars versus old cars. And I've done similar videos in the past, but this is sort of in response to the responses that I've been getting about new and old cars and some of the videos that were posted. And the number one thing that I've found is that it's relative. But most recently, it's interesting, I think it was Dieselgate, that a lot of people were responding to and talking about vehicles of old as compared to vehicles of new. And I just want to revisit that topic a little bit. One, to put a little more clarification on the new versus old vehicle argument per se, but also to interject something else towards the end of the video about where I think this kind of thing stems from. We have behind me my 1982 Mustang, and then up there, modern quote-unquote sports car, 2003 Nissan Sentra SER. I call it the pirate car. It's the SER. I think I'm hilarious. As I said, it's relative. So behind me there's a 1982, would be considered an old car, but to somebody that was born in the 90s, a 1993 Mustang would be an old car as compared to today. So old and new is a relative term. Now the complaints are the things, I'm just sort of paraphrasing here from the comments. And what I've seen is a lot of people making comments to the effect of, my older car, you know, I had a 2003 something, and the build quality of it is not the same as my 2011, 2013, something like 10-year gap apart. Same car, like a Nissan Altima, let's say. And you had a 2003 and a 2011, and the interior, the whole car is different. I mean, we have an evolution. That's what happens. Like every year we come around with a new model year and we redesign, rehash, or completely redo a model, or bring up new models, and then they start and maybe old models go away. Remember Pontiac? The things that are being said are, my older car seemed to have a better build quality than the newer car. The newer car seems full of lots and lots of plastic. And I even had somebody comment to the effect like about my Acura Vigor, how the trim inside of that is actual wood. It's not, it's plastic. In fact, the only place you're gonna find actual wood inside of a car, I mean, it may look like wood, but even in luxury cars like your Cadillacs, your Infinitis, your Lexus, all those kind of things look like wood. It's not wood, it's plastic. The only place you'll find it is like in a Rolls Royce, you know, those $1 million, you know, or close to $1 million vehicles is the only place that they actually make wood trim dashboards and stuff like that anymore. At least to my knowledge. Mass production vehicles, I'm not seeing any wood inside there. It's all plastic. So my Acura Vigor is an example of that. But it's interesting that it's perceived to be because it's older. And this is kind of my point in this video, is a lot of it's perception. So today's 2015, whatever, to somebody born this year, or maybe just a couple of years ago, 20 years from now they start driving. It's an old car. And it's gonna be perceived, and this is my guesstimate, it's gonna be perceived as something that is of better quality or higher quality than what comes out 20 years from now. I believe the reason for that, like I said, there's a progression of the model years, and they try to make improvements. And when I talked about my Odyssey, this is where a lot of this stuff came up. I talked about my 2012 Odyssey that I just got. Links in the description to all this stuff I'm talking about, so please, you know, go there if you're like scratching your head going, what are you talking about, Eric? For me, it was the difference between my 2001 and 2012 Odyssey, and I was sort of comparing and contrasting those things between the two. And I felt that my older 2001 Odyssey had a little more pickup off the line. And I had surmise it's because they had detuned the engine, but a lot of people said, you know what, it's probably heavier. And honestly, that's a valid point, and it probably is heavier because it has a navigation system where my 2001 did not have a navigation system. Also other safety features, other airbags, other components on the vehicle which would actually increase its weight. And a vehicle with the same horsepower, you know, two vehicles with the same horsepower, one of them weighs more, the one that weighs more is going to be slower because you have to overcome that static inertia of that weight. It's holding you back. So good point on that. Also, the transmission's different, thankfully. It's a 5-speed and not a 4-speed like my 2001 was. So there was definitely an evolution of the model to something else. Now, sitting inside the 2012 as compared to the 2001, I actually think the 2012 is better. And it's better because it has a lot more features in it. But is it better as far as build quality and everything? I think it's similar. It is slightly cheaper, but I think it's similar. So talk to me 10 years from now for a 2025 Odyssey, and we'll see what the build quality is as compared to the 2012. And that's kind of what it comes down to, because automakers, especially now that they've gotten into trouble over just about everything, emissions, safety, all this stuff, that they're just obviously just churning out and selling us crap. They sold us crap before, because like these cars from, I've got my 79 Ford sitting here next to the 82. This 79 Ford, the build quality on it is just garbage. Honestly, I mean, it holds together, it runs and drives, it's just a car. It was the Toyota Camry of its day. But build quality, panel gaps, just how it's put together and the way it's put together was good enough at the time. And you compare it to something that Ford would make now, like say a 2015 Fusion or something, and you compare the build quality of that as compared to the 79, it's miles away. But the older Ford might be perceived to be more of a quality car because there's more metal, because of the design, because of its whatever. And this is the point that I spoke about earlier that I'm trying to make. I think it's relative. I think based on your experience and your lifespan, what is considered old is considered new to somebody else. Like when I first posted about, you know, I like driving old cars, and I took a ride in my Fairmont, I was talking about, you know, I feel like I'm actually driving it. I feel like I have to keep a handle on this thing, as opposed to a newer car where I feel like I'm in a grown-up's car seat. I'm just driving down the highway and I feel like I'm cocooned, you know, and even though the build quality of that is better, it doesn't feel the same because it's not old and because I'm not connected to it. There isn't that visceral experience of, okay, there's a little play in the steering, there's, you know, just the suspension, the way it reacts, and that type of thing is what I was talking about. So old cars are relative compared to your age and your experience. I mean, old cars are always old cars, but old cars to some people could be a 1992, like I said, whereas me, 92 seems relatively new. It's old now, yes, I know, but, you know, 25 years or so ago. But in my lifespan, that seems newer. To me, old cars are like early 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, those are old cars, and they are to most people, but as far as their experience with those cars, I've actually had experience with cars from the 50s and 60s and 70s, whereas somebody born today or somebody born 10 years ago wouldn't necessarily have that same experience, so they wouldn't have that idea of what that build quality for that particular time frame would be. So my argument, or my point that I pose to you now for discussion is the perception of what is old and what is quality based on your perceptions and your lifespan. Because if you're born now, like I said, 20 years from now, the cars that are right now that are brand new are now old. And you would perceive them to maybe be of better quality or worse quality? Hard to say. I guess we'll have to wait 20 years to find out. But if you look at now as compared to the 90s, a lot of people said in the comments of my video of my Odyssey that the stuff built in the 90s and early 2000s was way better than the stuff coming out now. Stuff coming out now is so much cheaper. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on all this? ETCG1 is about discussions. Anyway, if you have automotive questions, I'd ask you to head over to ericthecarguy.com. By the way, there's a welcome video there that can tell you about the features that can help you, but also there'll be a link in the description to a discussion about this video if you want to continue on in a forum setting. Wish to connect with me socially, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, also Instagram. Close each of my videos. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. ETCG1 videos on Mondays. Thank you for watching. See you next time.